for tuning in. All right, everybody on Periscope and on Crowdcast. Holler if you can hear me in the comments. We have a new and improved setup here. I'm not talking about this, although this is fun too. We got a new and improved setup with our camera and our microphone. So hopefully all of you on Periscope and Crowdcast can hear me. No problem. I've minimized my browser windows and generally speaking, fine-tuned this setup, even though I had a browser issue. I think it was a Zoom issue actually in the session that I just wrapped up around decentralizing media and decentralizing everything with the folks at Epicenter. Check that out later today if you have a chance. So it's been a week since we last caught up. For those of you who are on Periscope, hop on over to crowdcast.io/2bitidiot. If you want to join an interactive session that's going to get started in just about 10 minutes here with Matt Luongo, the founder and CEO of Keep. We're going to be talking about tBTC, an interoperable store of value assets, why they're important for scalability in the crypto ecosystem, particularly in a multi-chain future where we're going to have a lot of competing protocols coming out in the next several months. So topic du jour, why did I shave my head? Well, truth be told, I didn't think it was going to be this short. I wasn't doing it in front of a mirror. I did it outside with my kids because my hair was looking a little shaggy and I figured, why the fuck not? So here we are. If you don't like it, I don't care. The only opinion that matters is that of my wife and my two little kids who like rubbing it because it has that little buzz feel. Yes, Matt, quarantine shaves are in vogue. We're going to invite you on camera in just a few minutes, so maybe we'll catch something. Maybe you have a surprise announcement in your head of hair as well. Before we get to Matt, a reminder, those on Periscope are not going to be able to see the interactive session, so you'll either have to go to YouTube and stream it or hop on over to crowdcast.io/2bitidiot to join the interactive Q&A. But before we do that, it's the million case mark in the US. We've got some slow and steady good news, I think, on the coronavirus front in terms of states reopening, in terms of cases slowing. The fatality rate is still very high in the West and in general. The debate over testing and how pervasive this disease really is continues to no end, really, and I think will probably linger for years until this disease has run its course. There's a vaccine, or we otherwise have been able to get through this particular part of the pandemic. But no matter how you slice it, we're now at over 1 million confirmed cases in the U.S., over 3 million worldwide, over 200,000 deaths worldwide, and over 60,000 now dead in the U.S. So that is the bad news. We are above the worst, the best case projections that the U.S. had laid out a few weeks ago. The actual fatality is probably markedly higher. I don't want to dwell too much on the coronavirus today because the bigger topic of conversation is how quickly we're getting people back to work in light of a slew of bad economic news. The markets, of course, continue to rally because the market isn't real anymore, and the Fed has shown that they will pump to no end and ensure that asset prices only go up from here, or at least they provide some lower bound of support. But on the virus front, I will say we have a generally younger, healthier, and tech-savvy audience, as most in crypto are. The articles that I would direct people's attention to, I will link to in our newsletter, and maybe Connor will be able to find this as well, from New York Times, about how this disease is actually presenting itself in young patients. My top recommendation now that the country is getting back to work and you're going to see a continued clamor to open up sooner rather than later as the economic impact becomes felt in its full effect. Get a pulse oximeter. A lot of young and otherwise healthy people are confusing or not understanding that they are infected with this disease and the havoc that it's wreaking on their lungs until it is in a very advanced state, because they don't recognize that they're actually short of breath. If you're young and you're healthy and you're not used to being short of breath, your body may be compensating for the fact that you have COVID and it's destroying your lungs, much like altitude sickness. This is one of the more interesting pieces that I read from an ER doctor who had spent a little bit of time in Brooklyn treating patients amidst the pandemic and actually putting a number of patients on ventilators, particularly those that were young and otherwise healthy. And the ground glass opacities, which are basically the disease's way of creating this honeycomb-like look in chest x-rays, but otherwise would go undetected, are lowering O2 levels in young, healthy people. It's causing strokes, it's causing blood clots, it's causing a ton of silent issues that for about $20 you could monitor using a pulse oximeter. This is not voodoo science. This is not a recommended treatment. It is a monitoring tool. And I check my O2 levels just about once a day because I'm in the habit now. Normal range is 94 to 99%, and then whatever your resting heart rate is, you probably know if you've done any type of athletic activity. But if you do that, you might get an early jump on whether you actually have the coronavirus or something serious that's worth monitoring and getting tested for, even if you have no other symptoms. So stay safe out there. And the long and short of it is buy Bitcoin, I guess. If we look at the markets, things have been gangbusters the last several days. We are now over 8,300, up 8% on the day. That can only mean one thing. Central banks must be buying. They'd be smart too. This is something that we're, I think, going to continue to monitor very closely and trying to figure out the best way to get some type of fundamental signal out of what's going on. But Chow has written about this a number of times for our Messari Pro subscribers. I tend to think that dollar strength, hard asset strength, that could be in property, that could be in gold, that could be in things like digital gold and cryptocurrencies, are going to be the trend of the year. And the emerging market debt crisis, corporate debt crisis in particular, where they have quite a bit of dollar-denominated debt, is ultimately going to lead to a mad rush into stablecoins, into Bitcoin, into maybe Ethereum, and other hard digital and physical assets as this crisis runs its course and plays out in full. The history of reserve currencies is that they generally do not die in a bang, but in a slow whimper. And I'm talking about reserve currencies, not all currencies, because you can't have a reserve currency die all of a sudden, almost by default. There needs to be some type of gradual transition. Will we see that from emerging market central banks and emerging market multinational corporations that are looking for a hedge against their dollar exposure and want to have some way of getting out from under this crippling euro-dollar reserve currency system that they really have no control over, and could be a millstone around their necks and a large global depressant of growth for the next few quarters. Again, hop on over. If you don't already have a Messari Pro subscription, Chow has written about this a bit, and we'll continue to monitor it. But for right now, let's just say n equals 3, we're seeing another halving pump. Why not? It's the easy narrative that we can go with. I don't necessarily think that it's true, but that's what people like to hear. Natalia, thank you for being so kind. I don't know if this is a haircut. There wasn't really any scissors involved. It was closer to a razor, but it does feel good and it does look good. Just leaving that as fact. For those of you that are on Periscope, hop on over crowdcast.io/2bitidiot. We're going to talk with Matt Luongo of Keep and tBTC and talk about how to make store of value more interoperable across different blockchains. Coming right now, Periscope peeps. I will see you on Friday. We got another excellent episode in store. Who do we have on Friday? I'm a little tired today, so I got to double check. On Friday, for those on Periscope, we have, I should know this because I just looked at it. a very special guest, Kendrick Nguyen, the founder and CEO of Republic. We're going to talk about Reg CF and fundraising in a pretty hostile environment. Kendrick was previously part of the AngelList team, so he's got a wealth of experience and knowledge here. Might be good if you have young or cash-strapped, bootstrapped entrepreneurs looking to find alternative sources of funding, given the VC funding constraints today. But that's Friday. Today, hop on over to crowdcast.io, 2BitIdiot. See ya, all my Periscope peeps. Ciao. All righty. Now for the diehards, the real misfits, the true believers. I'm going to invite Mr. Matt Luongo to the screen right now. Accepted and connecting. With any luck, we're going to have audio today, since all of my browser windows are closed. Don't forget to ask questions if you got them. Pop right into the Ask a Question feature. And Matt, we will get to them after our initial interview. Matt, can you hear me?
I can. How about me?
Great success. I'm disappointed. You still have hair.
Yeah. So I actually was planning on doing a shave myself. Thought it would be a fun thing with the kids. But then a team member popped on Zoom the next day and he'd done it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to go shaggy. I wanted to be the first. So here I am.
Oh, okay. So it was less about getting scared off by the visual, more about getting scared off by the not being the first mover advantage.
Yeah. I did shave. I got rid of the beard because I thought like maybe, there's some studies saying perhaps that lessens transmissibility, but then there's some others that said it didn't, and I like my beard. So it's back.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the beard is the push-up bra for the face. So whether it was taking it off the top or taking it off my chin, my decision was rather easy. Matt, for those that are not familiar with tBTC and,
Sure.
and Keep and Thesis and Fold, you've built a number of applications. We've known each other for years.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about the company that you started, the different products, and then ultimately we're going to focus most of our attention on tBTC, which is the most recent news.
Of course, yeah. So, you can look at this as I'm either an empire builder or I have a bad case ADHD. But I've hopped around from a couple things. I started Fold, which originally was a Bitcoin 1.0 payments company back in 2014. It has since spun out and become its own funded. Basically, I mean, I sort of think if you were to take like Lolly and then add on payment features, a rewards play for Bitcoin, and has a new CEO, Will Reeves, who's crushing it. And so when we made those team changes, we started a new parent called Thesis. And the idea is that we're basically a studio model in crypto. We know that we want to work on a lot of interesting things. We're most interested in basically empowering the individual and sort of like the core of why we got into this space, which is privacy, hard money, censorship resistance, and I think at our best, dissident tech. So Thesis has also started another project called Keep. And Keep is a confidentiality layer on top of Ethereum. It's very much for data. So it's not about, it's not like Zcash or how can we move our money around privately, which is totally awesome, but just not the project. It's how can we access social security numbers without doxing everyone on chain? How can we interoperate with private chains and other chains? So we built this project out and we realized it was the perfect infrastructure for a cross-chain bridge between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so that is our latest project, tBTC.
There's gnashing of teeth and controversy around something like tBTC, where you're basically trying to take value from Bitcoin and port it over to Ethereum. It almost gives people the impression of this kind of gradual absorption or this hostile takeover of Bitcoin. How have you navigated these relationships with the Bitcoin community and the Ethereum community to start? Because I'd imagine that's going to be a microcosm for, first of all, for this conversation and how we think about interoperable store value long term, particularly for dynamic dynamically priced assets versus stablecoins. Stablecoins offer their own suite of problems if you're talking about interoperability across chains. But for crypto assets themselves, this is phase one. You're going to have many other instances of this when you talk about trading dots for atoms, for ether, for
it's going to be flying everywhere,
and so on down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's money crypto and there's tech crypto. And I think that a lot of tech crypto has moved to Ethereum and other chains. And I don't blame them, right? If you want to build something, you want a tech stack and a community that wants to try new things. But for me, like, the only money in our space is still Bitcoin. So the way that I see this is we are bringing hard money to these other chains. And if their assets can come up with the right way to capture value and capture the utility that their technology brings, fantastic. Like, I have no problem with other assets doing well. But for me, Bitcoin is king, and it's why I'm here. What is it missing? It's missing the expressivity that we see on Ethereum, maybe some version of that. It's missing robust privacy, not just this CoinJoin nonsense that people are using today, which is pretty weak. So that's how I see it. But there are other ways to look at it, right? Another way to look at it, if you're like a diehard Ethereum maximalist, I didn't know these people existed, but now I do, because both sides love to get provoked by me, is maybe ETH is money. I hate this, but maybe ETH is money. And and we're just absorbing Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's gonna die. And you know what? Right now, Bitcoin, Tether, if Ethereum is primarily servicing those assets, the asset really needs to look very different. Like, the way ETH works needs to look very different to actually capture value from being the security layer for those assets. So ultimately, I think that what's going to happen is we're going to have Bitcoin, which is our sort of opt-out asset, a bunch of stable coins, and then a few chains that have robust technology and have found a way to capture value, and those assets will survive. But I think the rest is going to eventually fall away.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you follow the EIP and the recent proposal from Vitalik to basically lock in Ether as the only payment for gas. That seems like it's something that could be hacked around anyway.
It's really easy.
Is that just symbolically important? What's your general thought on that EIP and maybe? All right, so you've dug deep in it. Kind of outline Vitalik's rationale, the counterpoints, and really in practice whether this is going to matter, because ultimately you could see tBTC being used for gas. It's just one kind of atomic swap away, right?
Yeah, totally. And honestly, this doesn't necessarily change that. It's still quite straightforward to switch from anything that's on Ethereum to ETH to burn when you send transactions under this new ETH. So I think it's a great move from a price support standpoint. Fantastic. Obviously, less Ether in circulation. I would expect. I'm no economist, but I would expect that would be good for the price. But at the end of the day, there's a top heaviness problem, and these hacks are just hacks. So you have tokens on top of Ethereum. They're not directly contributing to security. And so unless that ETH burn is directly proportional to the top heavy value that's being transferred on Ethereum, they're not capturing what they should. So if I move $1 billion in Tether on Ethereum and I burn a little ETH, so what, right? And you have similar issues. You have similar issues we saw with like Omni and Counterparty on Bitcoin, and the whole community kind of just pushed this stuff out, and it got priced out in the fee market. But Ethereum, they haven't quite dealt with this yet. So I see this as a Band-Aid. It definitely is not going to impact us significantly on ETH1. I do think that if ETH2 does become a thing, those economics are much better for the asset. But people have been saying ETH2 for a long time, and my take on that is stop talking about what you're going to do and start talking about how you work today.
And there is, people forget there is still quite a bit of development going on the ETH 1.x side of things. Is that really where your attention is focused, just because it's the here and now, or how are you thinking about the launch of the beacon chain, and does that create any complexities as you're thinking about tBTC?
So we're pretty involved. We've actually shipped 2 EIPs in the last hard fork for Ethereum. And what I've seen is the big debacle of ETH 1.x and backroom conversations and stuff like that is really Ethereum trying to pull back from this incredibly open model that doesn't have a lot of velocity, and trying to get more focused and trying to actually move with the product they have today. So if Ethereum froze today, I would be perfectly happy, frankly. And if anything, as a developer, it pisses me off that it's still being actively changed as much as it is. I've seen contracts that used to work and that don't anymore. Aragon got bit pretty bad in the last hard fork. So it's hard, in Bitcoin, clearly ossification has become a virtue. Don't change the chain. Everything is backwards compatible, and developers are happy. And the idea is that if it's a store of value, stability is the most important thing. And Ethereum has been on the absolute opposite end of the spectrum, and they're moving away from move fast and break things, but they haven't found the next resting point on that spectrum. So I guess I would say I think how Ethereum works today is pretty cool. It's not the fanciest technology ever, but it lets me do interesting financial things with tools like Bitcoin. So if ETH2 never launches, if ETH 1.x never progresses, I think we're good.
So we talked about tBTC. What other synthetic assets are you thinking about supporting or creating in the future? And how all-consuming is just this one bridge of a project?
Sure.
Versus creating potentially dozens or hundreds of these assets? Because one thing that I'm not clear on is differentiation when something like this has been created.
Yeah.
Because like ERC, it's almost like ERC20. ERC20 allowed anybody to create a token and ICO themselves, right? The creation of tBTC and the technology behind atomic swaps should make it easy for people to do this, infinite number of times, or fork this infinite number of times.
Right.
So you also have an issue of kind of keeping track of what is real.
Yeah.
Versus what is network spam, and in a decentralized network that seems like it's going to be very difficult. Where is the shelling point? How do you codify tBTC's position here and any kind of subsequent similar?
Well, so two-part question. Let me go after the first one and ask you, Ryan, which chains matter right now?
Realistically, it's Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah. So that's how our team.
I think, and that's not just the 80-20 rule, by the way. That's like the 99-1 rule.
That's right.
You'd be hard pressed to find any other blockchains that have mission critical development right now, outside of speculation.
I strongly agree.
So.
Yeah,
so maybe it's 98. Maybe it's 98 too. Sure. But
yeah, that sounds a little bit closer. Yeah, so my take is the asset to peg is Bitcoin. Now, where that asset should be pegged, what one way to look at it is what superpowers do we want to give Bitcoin? I think that's up in the air. So I think Ethereum has this really robust ecosystem. Plugging Bitcoin in makes perfect sense. I'm quite interested in, and this is from a tech perspective, in Cosmos and Polkadot when it launches, and these other chains that are faster and make these different trade-offs. But until they have enough users, we'll plug Bitcoin in and nothing will happen. And so I think it's not that this project is all-encompassing for my team. We're planning on launching more after this first release. It's just that you need to set expectations. Great, we've brought Bitcoin to every robust ecosystem, but there's only one that's got anything actually going on. So maybe Tezos, maybe Cosmos, maybe Polkadot will end up having enough user demand. And don't get me wrong, I want Bitcoin to be everywhere. Another thing that I'm looking for is a robust answer to privacy. So the two approaches that we've been following are, one, just do it on Ethereum. So Ethereum has all the tech, technically you can get privacy on Ethereum, but it's quite difficult because of how the L1 works. And then the other I've looked at is I'm trying to start to push the Zcash community in this direction, where instead of Zcash just being, the sort of proof of concept for snarks, let's actually make it a place where other assets can be hosted, and we solve the top heaviness problem from day one. So maybe Bitcoin goes to Zcash for privacy. So those are the two kind of takes that I'm looking at on the privacy side. I'm excited about DeFi, and it's where people are today. But for me, as much as I want a USD loan against my Bitcoin, the real thing I want is privacy for my Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Can you do a quick explain, like on 5 on
sure.
tBTC versus wrapped Bitcoin or synthetic Bitcoin?
Totally.
Because there's a lot of nuance that I think is lost here, and it I think maybe is similar to like the stablecoin argument, right? Unless you're in the thick of things, you don't really care what the difference between USDC and Tether and DAI is. But there are kind of structural differences that matter quite a bit. And how have your partners and you thought about this as an evolution of wrapped Bitcoin?
Yeah. So first, Tether is still owning the stablecoin market, right? And so everyone has to there's a cognitive dissonance where it's like, well, this doesn't follow our ethos, and yet it's doing fantastic, right? So I think there's a couple pieces to this. But let me just, we can get to the philosophy in a second. So here's the difference between tBTC, and I think there are two sides. There's wBTC, and then there's also Liquid on the pure Bitcoin side. So first, Liquid. So Liquid is Bitcoin only. It's an attempt at a sidechain by Blockstream. It's an early work, and the idea is that I want to take my Bitcoin, I lock it up in a multisig on the Bitcoin chain, and then the participants in that multisig can now govern a new chain. And that chain can move my Bitcoin around, have confidential transactions, whatever. The participants in the multisig are fixed. So you have to trust that you know these people, and you have to trust when you want to pull your money out that they'll actually redeem, and that you'll be able to get back to Bitcoin from LBTC. It's kind of, it's a fine proof of concept. It establishes a point. It's like Bitcoin only, which I think is quite important to a lot of people. And then you look at, so that's one approach, this federation approach where you trust these signers and you hope that they don't take your money, but maybe you can settle faster on their sidechain. The other approach that we've seen is just straight up Bitcoin Bank. You send me Bitcoin, I will send you script on another chain. Go wild. And so that's the approach that wBTC has taken. And they did this with the best intentions, right? So like, this isn't like, just, these aren't some big evil plans. BitGo and their partners wanted to help grow DeFi. And so they made sure that there was a way for you to deposit Bitcoin with BitGo, KYC, and then kind of, do your thing on Ethereum and then redeem. So the problem with these approaches, there are a couple problems in my opinion. One is that you have to ask permission. So to put money in, to pull money out, you have to ask permission. You have to, there's KYC, there's all sort of data flying around about you. Which is, kind of antithetical to our grand vision for this space, I think. So it's not permissionless. And then the other thing that is the flip side of not being permissionless is it's not always redeemable. So like I say not permissionless, and sometimes that sounds a little philosophical, but what I mean is if there is something wrong with your BTC equivalent on your chain, you can try to redeem to Bitcoin and they don't have to give it to you. So as a thought experiment, you could dust all of these Bitcoin equivalents on Ethereum from Iran. And suddenly, that's it. You're not going to be able to redeem any of those. Your money is now effectively worthless. You can still use it on the Ethereum chain, but you're not getting back to Bitcoin. And so that irks quite a bit. So our goal with tBTC is a couple things. It's how can we take the properties of Bitcoin and bring them to Ethereum? Not just how can we take Bitcoin as a priced asset, because that's interesting, but it's pretty easy. We want to actually maintain the monetary supply. So tBTC has to be 1-to-1 to Bitcoin, and then 2, censorship resistant redeemability. So no one should be able to tell you no, you can't get your Bitcoin back. So that's the goal. I can talk about the details of how we do it, but the biggest thing is people shouldn't have to tell you whether or not you can get your money.
Mm-hmm. And obviously that's important for auditability. It's important for integrations. And you've announced a a slate of partners that are going to be supporting us in rapid succession or right out of the gate. Compounds, Maker, Uniswap, Kyber, a number of others.
Yeah, sure.
How do you go about getting support from all of these different DeFi protocols? Because it's this kind of weird social network that no one likes to talk about, where everybody kind of implicitly trusts each other, and that they're kind of doing the audit work, and that they're going to report bugs a certain way. And for trustless finance, there's a tremendous amount of trust right now, which you could argue is fine because it's early stage. What is the sausage making process to actually get this off the ground, not technically, but socially and well distributed and plugged in?
Sure. So I hope he doesn't mind quoting him, but Chris Bernisky said a really clever thing to me. We were involved in some Zcash governance stuff, and he said, "Oh yeah, this is the off-chain diplomacy piece. Like tons of emails and meeting up in person, and now Zoom calls, of course." And so I think the answer is it's a mix of all of the hustling and biz dev you would expect, combined with like a huge healthy dose of skepticism. So even so there is a social network, but it's not, everyone has been burned. Everyone has been burned in this space by somebody. Everyone has been burned by someone making huge claims about a token or a technology that ends up being total bullshit. And so because we've all been sold snake oil before, folks that I've known for 5-6 years still will be like, Matt, that sounds great. I'm going to need to validate or verify that. And so, it was a mix of things. Another piece is, we've like Maker is actually a great example because it's maybe the most complicated. I've sort of methodically been going through MKR holders that have been public, and I've brought them into the design process early on in the system, said, does this solve your needs? Do you think this will be collateral? We've worked heavily with the centralized team as well as the decentralized token holders, and still, they could still vote to not accept us as collateral. So part of it is exactly the biz dev that you would expect. Part of it is like random technical gatekeepers in odd places. And then part of it is just like getting on forums and finding people who it turns out they're a whale in XYZ currency, and you had no idea who they were, but you need to get on a Zoom call and convince them.
Mm-hmm. And to give a sense for how long this process is, some of the, we were talking about tBTC in Berlin last summer, which was kind of mid-August, right?
Yep.
I think was the first time that you revealed the initiative and really started talking about it, publicly. And here we are 9 months later. That's actually pretty fast by crypto protocol standards, right? But there's been a lot of steps in between.
Yeah, so you missed the part where we've actually been working on it for 1.5 years with most of these partners, and I just didn't announce it. And I know that's weird to not announce way early, but we didn't want to announce until we were confident that the thing worked. And actually, the reason we announced so early, by my standards, was because somebody saw just like our pre-publication website. Like, I don't even know, like maybe it was some Telegram or something, but somebody saw it early and tweeted about it. And I was on a plane, and we just had to like, okay, let's tweet things and market this. We really weren't ready. So 9 months is a quick turnaround, but really the 2 months after that, almost all of the protocol was frozen. And ever since then, it's been, stamping out every bug, testing, working on the infrastructure underneath. We finished our first 6-week audit 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have another audit coming up that'll be shortly after mainnet, but it should hit before there's too much money in the bank, in the decentralized custodial layer that we've built. And so, it's hard work, I guess. It hasn't just been like a quick, easy turnaround, unfortunately. But thank you.
Is this all of your time and energy right now? How are you splitting your time in the conglomeration that is all of your responsibilities?
It's most of it. So I'm still on Fold's board, and I lightly weigh in on product stuff. If you guys are interested, they've got a Visa card launching that should be the first Bitcoin back credit card that you can use, and that's pretty exciting. But Will's got it. Their team they've got it, so they need very little input from me. Mostly just introductions to like this person that we met this many years ago. So yeah, everything else is tBTC. We have some other projects in the pipeline, but one of the weaknesses of a studio model is it's very easy to not edit. It's very easy to spread yourself too thin. And we found ourselves starting to do that. And so with tBTC, we've just said, okay, any other thing that doesn't immediately have market validation, we're done. And let's refocus on bringing Bitcoin to Ethereum. If that works, cool. We can expand to keep more, but first, let's prove that this app can be successful.
When will you start seriously considering support for other blockchains? Are those other kind of behind the scenes conversations?
Yeah, we're already seriously considering it. So, we only have so many people. And I think the thing that's really interesting about these new chains is it's a huge pain to support a entirely new ecosystem. So Tezos would be like a great chain to peg Bitcoin to. From my perspective, it's been around a while. I think there's a lot of Bitcoiners who are Tezos people who never touched Ethereum. So that's kind of interesting. But you have to learn this entirely new stack and use all this tech that we made an early decision not to pursue. And so there's a couple things. So then you look at something like Celo. I didn't know much about Celo until recently, but because it's so compatible with Ethereum, it's very easy for a tech team to move over. Similar to Near is another project that has EVM compatibility. So there's this like tug between, do we want to work on Cosmos, which is probably our favorite pure interop chain, or do we want to snap our fingers and port what we have to the next Ethereum compatible chain? Definitely in active conversations, and I expect that we'll have at least one announcement shortly after mainnet.
Excellent. Well, Matt, it's been fun to watch, and I hope that the rollout goes smoother than other more recent rollouts of high-profile projects in the DeFi ecosystem. But you've been working on this a little bit more methodically, I think.
We'll see. It's like wading into shit, man. But DeFi devs are going to learn the same way Bitcoin did. So.
Excellent. Last question that I've started asking people: when the Bitcoin movie, or better yet, the HBO series is made, who is going to be cast to play Matt Luongo, given your illustrious?
Well, we need someone who's
maybe.
We need someone who can come off as starting out like really nerdy and engineering, but realizes he needs to step up and join crowdcasts and stuff. So I'm not quite sure who that's going to be. They need to look a little alt, right? So I like, what is his name? He was on Girls, Kylo Ren. I like that guy, whoever that guy is. I don't look anything like him, but I like that he looks a little like different from Hollywood. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'll let you guys decide in the comments. Who a
little creative license. Is that Adam Driver? Is that his name?
There we go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I clearly watch too much TV and movies as a buff. So I've bailed out a few people that have asked this question. It's like, who's the guy from the thing that does the other thing? And,
yeah.
So that's the first one. I think I had 3 people in a row that said Jason Biggs. So I'm just glad that you didn't say Jason Biggs.
No.
And we keep it a little bit different. Matt, we will catch up again real soon. And I almost put you on the spot, but I will ask you this offline following this interview. But we will see you again very soon.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
And looking forward to everything coming out of both tBTC, Keep, and Thesis.
Appreciate you having me. See ya.
All right. Take care. Actually, nope. AC, I just saw that question. in the chat. Let me invite Matt back real quickly. If you want to post a question, just a reminder that you can hover over your question and the question mark, and it will post as a question. And then I will see an alert, and then I can start the camera rolling when Matt actually asks it. So, Matt, welcome back. Can you hear me?
Thanks. I can.
False start. Okay. We have one question. And if there are others, then fire away from the audience. Question from AC. Is there a notional amount of ETH deposits you'd consider a metric for success or failure for tBTC?
Yeah, so this is kind of funny because I have a very high bar on the one hand, but I also will hold on to a project a little bit longer than most people if it's not going well. So I'm not measuring it in ETH first. I'm measuring it in Bitcoin. So for BTC, I want and expect, this is not usually something I'd say publicly, but to hit around 3,000 BTC by the end of the year in tBTC. I have reason to believe that we are on track from my off-chain diplomacy that I've been talking about. And also just, when you've been in the space a little bit, there are plenty of people who are happy to put money into new things. And so I think that that's what's kind of interesting about this is if you're talking to a Bitcoin depositor and they're trying to figure out what the upside for them is, it's like, well, do you want to be the first to trade on these new platforms? And they're kind of interested, right? A lot of them haven't touched DeFi, and you get bored hodling. A really fun example, Tim Draper was saying the other day, he's like, obviously I love Bitcoin and I think it's going to go up, but I'm not the sort of person to stick money under his mattress. And that's what he's had to do with his Bitcoin so far. So I think that this entire lending Bitcoin phenomenon that we've seen that BlockFi and some of these others have really run with is going to help quite a bit. We've got one more there about a dashboard to see all the analytics. Yep. Yes. So to restate the question, will there be a dashboard to track all this stuff? So we've got a few people who are working on it. Our team only has so much capacity to launch new cool front-end things, but I know that the token terminal team is planning on launching a dashboard, and we might take a crack at it ourselves as well.
How about the graph?
How about the graph? That'd be sweet. Yeah, I'm all peopled out. Yeah, well,
I'm just thinking about less about the soft diplomacy and whether there were compatibility issues or if that was a potential integration as well.
No, I don't think so. I don't see any reason there would be an issue. I think the only thing that's tricky about this is every once in a while in unexpected ways, your tech needs to understand Bitcoin and Ethereum developers. I've been hearing, I didn't even know Bitcoin had a testnet. I'm like, it does. That's how it's been developed for years. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we had 2 questions. That was pretty cool. Try to think of a session where you can just immediately call somebody back. And we did that.
Not bad. Not bad.
So one of the benefits of this platform. Every once in a while, things work out. We've got a nice new camera setup. I'm still a little bit two-faced in terms of what people see based on the lighting in the Citadel, but I'm working on a new Citadel, I assure you, and we'll get that squared away. But in the meantime, Matt, thanks again. This time for real, let you go. All right. For those of you that are still around, I will give you my quick screen share and encourage you again to check out Messari Pro. This is my default screener that I check every day. It is called GodView, and it has all 150 plus metrics that we track across the universe of assets. We've got 1,100 assets that are available in the total database. You can see, if I just look at the ones that we cover in full, we got about 125 full profiles. That covers about 98% of the real addressable market when it comes to trading volume. But if you want to go a little bit further down the shitcoin stack, you see we have 1,235 assets that you can compare and contrast and find your next hidden gem somewhere in the muck of this market. So check it out at messari.io/screener. You can sign up for a free trial. You can also take advantage of our killer new charting tool, which is getting a major facelift that we expect to come out in the next couple of weeks as well. You can draw, you can save these just like you save your screeners, share them, and ultimately look at over 15 different time series, market data, blockchain data, lending data, staking data, a whole slew of other metrics available here and compare it maybe, if you would so choose, to the traditional markets. We got a lot going on under the hood here and a lot more coming out, but most of you already knew that. So we will call it a day about 10 minutes early, give you the time back. And in the meantime, hope that you will support us. Check out Messari.io, Messari Pro. How much is Pro? It is $30 a month, $300 a year. Thank you for that question, Joe. Last bit of housekeeping, stay tuned for some announcements next week. We have a killer virtual event with 150 speakers coming up June 1st through 3rd. It is all the movers and shakers from the investment realm, the developer realm, and all of my friends from closing in on a decade in this industry, talking about what's real and all the inside baseball that you would possibly want. Think about it a little bit like Consensus meets Live Aid, because 50% of the profits are also going to be going to coronavirus relief through our friends at the Giving Block. So register, tell all your friends, your family, your colleagues, make it mandatory. You're going to want to park your ass in front of the computer for 3 days, I can guarantee you, because we've got a lot of slick programming and interactive venue that will feel as close to the real thing as we possibly can until everybody gets their VR headsets. And it will help us miss out a little bit less from all the physical events that we're used to traveling to. And for those that are not able to travel, or don't travel too frequently, this will be an eye-opener, because it will bring a little bit better access to the events that most of us that have been in the industry are spending way too much time on, but are an awful lot of fun. Mainnet.events, to sign up for the email, Messari Pro, pay for good stuff, and it will come back to you in spades. Until next time, talking about Friday with Ken Nguyen from Republic Crypto. I will see you guys on the interwebs. Be good, stay safe, and until next time, ciao.